Video. In this video, we're going to go over another 33 questions answered or asked on a variety of internet marketing and web development and search engine optimization forums. We're going to go through these in no particular order, and we'll discuss these questions, their answers, and some additional general commentary on internet marketing and search engine optimization. First, we got a question from the Builder Society. How can these people hire dumb people and still make millions, these companies? Particularly large companies. Now, there seems to be kind of a divide between the freelancer or individual single people type marketers who do marketing either for themselves, often doing like affiliate sites, or maybe they run a small business, maybe they sell some services over the internet or something along those lines, versus people who are SEO consultants or SEO contractors or whatever, who work for large companies that have very large budgets and hold departments of people and bureaucracy and so on and so forth. And one of the defining characteristics of the difference between the two is that, to be somewhat biased, the ones who work for companies are way worse at their job. They know a lot less about SEO, and they often will simply repeat things from the Google Webmaster Guidelines. They'll do things like say, EAT is trendy now, we gotta only talk about the expertise and the authority and the trustworthiness. And we've talked about EAT and email as well elsewhere on the site, so I won't go into too much depth. But the point is, what seems to be the case is, so here's what's clearly true. Backlinks are in fact still the biggest factor in ranking in search engines. Now, you might think this isn't true because people will bring up these stupid ass graphs like this where they say, look, in 2013, according to these random lines I just drew on this chart, link building's not a thing anymore. It totally stopped being a thing in 2013. Whoa! So then anyway, the point is, if you're a large company, it's relatively easy to get backlinks. Like if you have a Twitter feed and you're like Michael Jordan or like Michael Jordan's like PR manager, or you work for Nike or some company, some large company, even just tweeting out your articles is enough that you can get some traction and some links just for some random halfway decent post. So it's not even that hard, really, to get links as a large company. Now, what you really should be doing as a contractor or SEO consultant for a large company is focusing on, promoting more things, and essentially that's almost more like a social media marketing type campaign. You already have a lot of visibility to leverage. But then the other thing is, I suppose, stuff like internal linking or general best practices. But those really aren't things that require that much skill, as opposed to trying to take a brand new site and get that off the ground from scratch. So there seems to be kind of a divide there in terms of large companies versus small companies, where large companies just don't really need the same kind of heavy-hitting SEO consultants to get traction with SEO. Someone who can kind of just do basic type stuff, because of their size of their company, having one person who is moderately competent, even if they're way worse than a lot of the people who work on an individual basis, having one halfway decent person can be enough that over the set of thousands and thousands of pages and so on, they can get enough money to pay for that person to justify continuing to have them there, even if they are not as skilled as a lot of people who work for themselves and run their own sites. Overall, the main reason why you can sometimes get away with having worse contractors if you're a large company is because they already have a lot to work with from the baseline, so they can still generate that value because they have a system that they're working with, the company, that allows them to generate more value with less skill because of the company existing than if they were trying to build something completely from scratch. Whereas you have to do everything a lot better when the value is only from the SEO itself. All the little cogs fit together, so to speak. Next, we've got a question from the Warrior Forum. Is cold calling still effective? Now, I haven't personally experimented with cold calling. I would imagine that it's somewhat obnoxious. You'd probably want to make sure that you are at least finding leads that are relevant, so you're either calling someone who you've really scoped out, not just going through a massive list, although I bet there are people who get results by going through massive lists. One similar thing that we're looking into writing a case study on, we're currently like halfway through writing this case study, and we're going to get some more data and test a few things out, is a variation on this method written by this one guy whose name I forget. It's like 7857 or something like that. Let's see if I can look this up. 7878. A guy from a different forum had a strategy that he wrote a classic thread on that I'll link below even. It's basically about, you send letters to people, you scope out leads, you write a handwritten letter or hand-signed letter, and then you have some kind of like sort of weird thing in the envelope so that the letter has a little bit of, not just weight, but it kind of stands out, so they'll actually open it, and then you could put like I think he said a single die in it, like dice, or you could do like a pen, or you could do like a, I don't know, a domino or something like if you ran like, maybe if you had like a logo, you could have like a little thing related to your brand or something. Like if you were like Domino's Pizza, you could put like a domino in it. So we're writing a case study on that. That's a little bit like cold calling. It might be worth it if I were going to do a cold calling campaign, what I'd probably do is make it very targeted. Like maybe even do like the sales letter, and then maybe after you send it out, like, you know, like send it out on like Monday, or send it out on Monday or something, and then like on Friday or Thursday you do like a follow-up sales call and be like, hello, we're a company, buy our, very nice, we buy our merchandise or something. I don't know, whatever. So that's something we'll talk about a little bit more in a future post. As to whether it's still effective, it probably is. Almost all the posts that are like, is X still effective? The answer is almost always yes. And I mean, I still get these spam calls from people. I get spam calls from people like saying, sir, can I make your website? I bet they even get fucking leads from that. So the answer is yes. I think if you want to not feel spammy, you could probably get results from a much smaller pool of leads by really narrowing it down and doing a lot of research in advance. The answer is yes. I need to hire a writer that writes like a reporter journalist. We have we actually have like a full on-page SEO guide. I'll link that below. Really what you should do, so this guy's main concern seems to be something like he can get people who like can write okay, who can write like adequate content, but it's not really like SEO optimized is kind of what it sounds like he's going for here. Well, it's partially that I think he wants it. So both of these things, the content's too boring and it's not SEO optimized. The on-page guide covers both of these. Basically what you want to do is you want to give them a topic that's actually like interesting, and you kind of combine it. You write the title tag, the H1, the URL, and the meta description for them, so they kind of they know what direction to take with it. And then you don't really have to give them very many additional instructions because you've done like 60 to 80% of the heavy lifting just from those few fields. If you want to know more about that, watch the on-page guide, and this goes into it in a lot more depth. And you can use this with basically any writer, which is one of the reasons why it's very useful, is you don't need to find like a really specialty writer. You can kind of get cheaper or shittier writers to do a fine job because you're pushing them in the right direction. Should syndicated store pages be no indexed? What you probably should do instead is have a canonical tag. Let's see what he says specifically. Well, actually, no, what it sounds like he's doing is, so if you want to rank the pages, then no, you shouldn't. If you want them to be like, if it's like a white label service, I wouldn't have like a canonical tag or a no index, because presumably you want to rank them. Like what they're trying to do is make like local stores. So there's like a national chain or something that supplies different cities, then they want to rank for like good in Seattle or good in Portland. So no, you shouldn't no index them, because then what's the point, unless it's just people browsing. I wouldn't no index them. There's kind of a myth that like, oh, you have like pages that exist elsewhere, therefore like you're gonna get like a penalty. That's not true. Like the worst case scenario is they'll be ignored, and if you want them to have a chance of ranking, then don't no index them. Like, and it sounds like they're even sort of customized to the region, so I would not even do anything. If you were gonna do anything, you'd probably want to add a canonical tag, not a no index tag. Yeah, I wouldn't do anything. In a domain name, should you put a trade first or a domain? So Ohio Law or Law Ohio. There's no real meaningful answer to this. It's your own personal preference. If you watch the video on like 50 plus or 28 plus off-page SEO methods, it talks about exact match domains in there, and those are stupid. If you're trying to do something like that, the answer is don't do that shit, unless maybe you're doing like some troll thing with Bing, in which case you already know what you're getting into. So if you actually want to name your domain this, then like literally when you pick a domain name, don't think about like keyword stuffing. You're stuck with this piece of shit forever. Get an actual brand name. I think both of these are kind of stupid, but if you thought like Law Ohio sounds okay, I think it's stupid if you get a brand name. If you actually want this domain, just do whatever you like better. Literally domain names, don't think about keyword stuffing. Your brand is way more useful it's way more useful to have an actual brand, so you can get the long-term recognition. SEO link building, does language matter? So presumably if there are links from like, you have an English site and like a Chinese site links to you, is that like less or more useful? This is actually something I haven't experimented with too much. I would imagine that it still passes authority, and probably from like an authority perspective, it passes the same amount of authority. I think that it seems like a confusion people might have about this is, so a lot of times if you get like a bunch of random Chinese links, a lot of times it is because you're running like GSA or like XRummer or something spammy, because they'll just spam every site regardless of language. So sometimes if you see like, oh, a bunch of random Arabic links is like, oh, that feels spammy. There are good pages on websites that are in like Chinese, and if someone in Chinese happens to just link to you, I would imagine that still passes authority fine. I haven't personally experimented with this. What I have seen though is that like there are definitely some cases of 256 kilobytes, for example, getting backlinks from, there's like a Russian site and like a Chinese site at least that I've seen it get links from, and I like went to translate the page with the translate tool, and they were actually real threads. They were like people sharing some of our articles on forums. I would imagine those links are effectively the same as links in English. I would want to experiment with that more to say anything too definitive, but I would imagine that the question of like whether those links are still useful is more of a confusion of people just seeing shitty spammy links because people are running GSA versus like something that just happens to be on a site that is Chinese. So that's probably the answer. And page language might also provide some semantic information as to like whether a site should rank in different countries. Again, that's purely a theory, so that might also be relevant if you're trying to rank in a particular region. If anyone's experimented more with international sites or similar, consider leaving that in the comments if you have anything useful to add. What's the difference between SEO and PPC? So the difference, obviously, one is paid, one isn't paid. There are a few other differences worth noting. One, the number of people who click ads relative to the organic search, like I want to say it's something like maybe 15% of all clicks go to ads, and then like 85% go to like the natural search or the organic search. So people are less likely to click things just because they know they are ads. So the click-through rate is lower, but it is cost per click. It's the kind of thing where ads are more of a short-term solution, although conceptually they're very similar. Like the on-page optimization is very similar. You're going to have kind of the same sorts of landing pages. You're going to do basically the same kind of keyword research. They are conceptually very similar. The only thing is there isn't really off-page SEO, and you have to be focused on the return on investment since you want to make sure you're actually getting enough money to make your money back and then some. So conceptually they're similar. You could talk about a lot of the fine differences, but those are the basic ones. Do author names increase rankings? So I'm actually mildly surprised to see this on Black Hat World. Like, usually people have terrible threads on Black Hat World on the other side. This is kind of a thing that people talk about in, like, sort of the white hat corporate sort of just repeating the Google Webmaster Guidelines verbatim thing. So the context for this idea seems to be from this whole thing about EAT and YAML. So I've already talked about both of these. But basically where they say, like, sites in niches that are particularly sensitive, like things about health or, like, money or whatever, should have higher quality standards. And I think there's a theory going around that I haven't really heard anyone substantiate in any meaningful way. But I have heard a theory go around that if you like have consistent authors or like have like a staff page or an about page, this somehow like indicates that your site has people who are authorities on particular topics. So like it helps you rank in niches that are about sensitive things. Now, I haven't heard anyone substantiate that claim in any meaningful way. It seems purely like the kind of theory you would use as like a human evaluating a site, like, oh, like there's a staff page so I can see they're trustworthy. You could implement something like that algorithmically, like I guess. It seems like the kind of thing that you would need way more substantiation to say has any kind of meaningful impact on a site in search engines. Now, you might have an author name anyway, since like for humans that's probably useful. I've heard many people talk about this, but I've never heard anyone substantiate it with anything besides theory crafting. So I'm going to say probably it doesn't affect SEO. It's possible. I'm kind of surprised to see this thread on Black Hat World, honestly. The answer is it probably doesn't do anything, but you might as well have one. Next, we have a question that actually has an interesting answer. So, why don't Hrefs and or Majestic just ignore requests to not crawl sites? So first, some context. Why would someone block Hrefs or Majestic from crawling their site? And the answer is PBN, so private blog networks, again talked about in the link building methods video, are, well, they're very black hat, they're very blatantly black hat. And often the people who build these sites don't want their competitors to find out that they have PBNs. And the way that people often find out about those PBNs is through Hrefs or Majestic or other backlink checkers. So you can set up your site to not allow Majestic or Hrefs to crawl your site. So this guy is asking, why don't Majestic or Hrefs or other backlink checkers just ignore that? Because it would be useful for them to say, hey, we don't listen to the robots.txt. So ignoring the question about like whether bots should just fucking not listen to robots.txt files, which they probably should comply with them just like for the sake of their company's reputation so they don't just seem like assholes. But the other thing is, like, if there's two ways to block crawlers. One, you can, well, there's a lot of ways, but the two main ways you would block a bot from crawling your site are with robots.txt files. So that's a request to say, hey, please don't crawl our site, but it doesn't enforce anything. So robots.txt file is a suggestion, but what you can also do is set up an htaccess file, a server configuration file to like blacklist particular IPs, or like actually reject requests from particular user agents or locations or IP addresses or whatever. So if you want to actually set up a good PBN network, if you wanted to do this correctly, what you should do is actually block crawlers with your htaccess file in Apache or comparable in whatever server you're using and actually literally stop them from crawling your site. So the answer, in addition to the fact that it would probably be bad for business, is that you also can't not listen to the htaccess file, which is how anyone competent does it, so it's kind of irrelevant. Also, I don't even think that many people have hidden PBNs relative to like what people might think. I think it's more of a thing people say like, oh, well, if you make a PBN, you could hide them from the crawlers and shit. It's like, yeah, but like, I guess, like, I don't think that as many people do it as you would think. Like, probably there are some people who do it. I think mostly like people do it for like public PBN networks as opposed to like individual private PBNs. If you were running a custom PBN, it probably wouldn't matter because you would just make the whole thing like actually look halfway decent. So there's your answer probably. What is CTR? How to boost it? CTR is click-through rate, so the percent of people who click on your thing and then go through and visit your site. You can customize your title tag, have like a statistic, have something in brackets or whatever. You can customize your meta description. You can make your URL be descriptive and relevant. Those are the main things. You can also look at structured data. Hashbrown has a guide on structured data that I'll link below. This is also discussed more in the on-page guide, so you should go watch that. Now we've got a question from Digital Point. And this guy asks how to create multiple Gmail accounts. Now, you might think the answer is simple, just go make multiple Gmail accounts. The thing about Gmail is they have a pretty strong spam filter. So if you just want to have like 2 or 3 or like, I think I even have like probably like 5 Gmail accounts. And I had a bunch of other ones on part of like a company thing. That's on like their Google business thing. That was a while ago. That was a different project. So you can have a number of personal accounts, although it seems like generally like, you know, if you're making them a few years apart or like even months apart, that's kind of easy. But if you wanted to make like 10 accounts in a day, you would probably run into problems with their spam filter and like they'd probably be giving you things like phone verification. The answer is I see people do this thing all the time where they want a lot of email accounts and for some reason they use Gmail. So that's stupid. Because their spam filter is way too strong to, even if you have a real reason why you might want 10 personal Gmail accounts, that isn't because you want to go spam some social media site, their spam filter is just going to have a stroke all the time, and I wouldn't personally want to fuck with that. Maybe have a few if you want to have Gmail, but like really choose something else. The answer is choose something else. Like if you're going to just try to like if this guy's probably trying to like spam a site, if you're trying to do that, don't use Gmail. Use like Tutanota or something. Something else that's not going to have a stroke constantly every time you want to do anything. Don't make fucking 20 Gmail accounts. It's just a pain in the ass. And there's no good reason for it either. To use Gmail specifically for bulk accounts. Who is hosting Discord servers? Now the answer, first of all, this isn't quite an SEO or marketing question. It kind of is. It's a little bit tangential. So the answer, first of all, is Discord. So the Discord, as far as I know, doesn't have any self-hosted option. Like they're a proprietary tool. You might have like a premium Discord server, but you're not hosting the server, to be technical about it. So the answer is Discord is the one hosting it. One thing I have seen that seems kind of interesting is people using Discord for like marketing and say like, join our Discord, get Discord group, join our Discord group. Because then if you're the admin, you could like post announcements or whatever and probably make some money off of that. I've seen people mess around with use it like promoting Discord groups on like 4chan or like YouTube or wherever. I think it's something that would work better as like an accent to a business that you already have. Like we actually have a Slack channel which you can join if you would like. We don't even have really any promotional crap in there. It's kind of just like a casual group of people. I think they can be useful. Like the Slack group we have is useful. I think some people kind of do a harder core thing with them. The answer to who's hosting them, the answer is Discord is the one technically doing the hosting. I don't know if that's what the guy's question is, but it's a stupid question, so fuck that thread. How to check what search term conversions are using. So if you aren't familiar with Google Analytics, and there's actually an article that I'll link below about refer policies. So Google, they will restrict the refer data that's passed from the browser to your site when people click on search results in general. So they'll limit the amount of data that you can get about what people were searching for. And you can get some data from like Google Webmaster Tools, and you can also connect that with Google Analytics, but it's very limited because, well, the reason is privacy reasons, which is why they do that. But the point is it's very limited. So generally the better way to try to infer what people are searching for is that you have your landing pages, and your landing pages will generally have like, well, they'll rank for some keywords and there'll be some particularly big ones generally. So what you should probably do is you can use some kind of tool of your choosing, Ahrefs or whatever, to well, you know what your landing pages are, so just figure out what your landing pages rank for, and that's pretty much what people are searching. You can't really get the data directly generally, but you can usually get like 90% of it just from, or get a very good idea from just looking at what landing pages people are ranking for and figuring out what those landing pages rank for. Are Web 2.0s good? This is also covered in the video on link building methods. The answer is expired Web 2.0s are kind of popular, or not even popular, but they're relatively good in like kind of black hat niches. The expired ones, expired Web 2.0s, they're kind of like mini PBN type things. Although I'd say they're actually better than PBNs for those niches. Are fresh Web 2.0s good? Not really. Sometimes people will blast them with a tier of links. I guess if you blast them with a tier of links, maybe. I don't think they're particularly great just because they're generally orphaned, so you're going to have to build like a tier of links to them for them to be particularly useful at all. Maybe if you're doing a parasite type thing. I would say, honestly, Web 2.0s aren't that amazing. Expired Web 2.0s are kind of useful in, like, black hat niches if you're doing that. The answer is kind of. The answer is I already answered this. Affiliate marketing strategy. Really, there are two. Either you get a lot of traffic and you have a lower conversion rate by having something like, kind of have like how YouTube people will do, like, also buy this shitty VPN, or buy Skillshare, sponsored by Skillshare, click on the link. So there's not a huge, they're not really looking to buy the thing, but you have so much volume that you can get some sales. That gives you flexibility with changing the links out if you want. Then the second way is you make like an affiliate site, like you make vpnreviews.com, then you like review of X, review of Y, and you're really doing specific targeted stuff. That has a much better conversion rate, but you have to rank for particular terms. So you're putting a lot more eggs into one basket. Even if you have multiple reviews of many different products, if something goes out of business, then you lose out on that product potentially because it doesn't exist anymore. So that's one of the weaknesses there. Those are your two basic methods. Either do SEO with really targeted terms like reviews generally, although there's also a lot of long tail type stuff you can do, or get a lot of traffic, have like a community or whatever, and then you get a lower conversion rate off of the volume of traffic. So those are your two options basically. This guy is asking essentially how do you do reports for your clients? So he says all the on-page and off-page is going great. Let's assume that's true. There's probably some limitations, or he's probably fucking some stuff up, but whatever. Let's just answer his question. How can you make reports for your clients that are going to be persuasive? Really, the easiest way to do this would probably be to pull metrics and reports from a number of existing tools and compile them, and then have something like an executive summary. So you might have, well, you might also have like, here's a list of the links that we've gotten for your site this month. Here's a list of the pages we've created and so on. So kind of like a list of tasks you've done. Then you might say like, and here is a report from Ahrefs and this projection. Here's the Google Analytics data. Here's the Google Analytics data for the new pages we've created. Here is, you could also go into like the URLs or the posts you've gotten and say like, and we verify these are all live and indexed. So really what I'd probably do is go into a number of different places, get the various pieces of data, compile it into a report, and then find like the three best things and say like, this is going well, this is going well, this is going well. It really depends on what the budget is too, because if they're not paying that much money, then it's like, well, then you're probably not giving them a report. But if you have someone spending like a few $1,000s a month, then probably do that. Have like kind of an extended sort of template with like this metric, this list of tasks, this analytics data, whatever. So kind of have like a standardized format with all that sort of stuff, and then have like, so that'll be easy to put together because it's kind of standardized, then have like a short summary of like the most important or the most useful or like best parts in there. That's probably what I would do. It kind of depends. Does Google ignore content styled with display none? So the answer to do they ignore it is no. They do not ignore it, and you can verify this relatively easily. If you find a site that has like a toggle or something, and you can go check to see if it uses display none or tabs or whatever, an accordion, and you search for the text of that accordion, unless the page isn't indexed, you're generally going to find that page shows up exactly as expected as the number one result for the content that was in that accordion that was hidden or whatever. So no, they don't ignore it. Now, there's some discussion I've heard of like, or Google stated at one point that they valued that content less, which is a claim I would kind of question, like it was sort of an offhand tweet by someone. But then there was another offhand tweet like a year ago where someone said, no, just kidding, that's not true. It should be valued the same way because people do that all the time, particularly for like mobile design. So I don't know if that was ever true or that was just some shit they were saying out of their ass, like we value it less. It doesn't seem like it would make any sense for it to be true for them to value it less, because anyone who knows how, like who's ever looked at a website knows there's a lot of content that is display nunned, accordions and tabs and so on. So I don't know why that would be true. It's possible that at one point it was true. If anyone has data, again, that would be useful. I see no reason why that would be true or evidence to indicate that it was true at any point in the recent past. Now, there are things like people using display none to like hide keywords or like do keyword stuffing. There might be some kind of edge case they handle for that sort of thing. Although the thing is, I've seen sites recently still rank by doing things like spun and cloaked content, which would indicate to me that, well, I don't know if those ones are using particularly display none, but you definitely still can rank with that kind of a thing or do those kinds of like tricks. And if you're just using it for like regular like content presentation or like user experience, user interface type stuff, I wouldn't really worry about it. It clearly still is crawled and indexed, and to my knowledge, there is nothing that would make it be valued less. That seems like a stupid one-off tweet that someone said that it was probably bullshit. How do forums help you get backlinks for websites? The answer is because you post backlinks on them. Well, there's your answer. You could talk about, like, to what extent are they valuable. Some are no follow, some aren't no follow, some forums are trash, some pages are orphaned or whatever. The answer is because you post backlinks on them. How much does it cost to hire a front-end developer from India in 2019? First of all, I don't know if India has front-end developers. All the developers I've met from India are like full stack, not full stack. That full stack implies they actually write code. They're usually like WordPress devs, so they'll do like the design. They might write like a little bit of code, but they're usually just like duct taping plugins together with like a WordPress site, which can be adequate. The answer is like, honestly, they usually are going to cost like $1,000 to $2,000 per site because they'll generally, in my experience, be very slow at making their site. So they'll end up just costing the same amount of money as like a developer that's actually good. Because like a good developer can put together a very solid WordPress site for like $1,000 to $2,000, maybe up to like $3,000 or $4,000 for something like kind of fancy or like a few like more and more custom features or whatever. But like your standard kind of basic small business or affiliate or whatever site, $1,000 to $2,000 is going to be around what you could get a pretty decent developer in the US to actually make the thing for you, and they'll just do a better job. So so there are some things where it's worth it to outsource it to India occasionally, although honestly there aren't very many. But web dev is not one that I think is worth it in any meaningful way. So the answer is like probably $1,000 to $2,000. Maybe there are some that you do less, but all the developers I've met end up charging like $1,000 to $2,000 for websites. You could probably get it lower, but they're usually just terrible and slow. Now this guy's question isn't so much about scholarship link building, it's more about whether having one page with a lot of traffic will confuse search engines into thinking that you don't have other pages. I've never run into anything like that. Presumably, they're the ones sending you the traffic, so presumably they know that that's just one page they do pretty well on. Although, I don't know if... I question whether this guy's even getting the traffic from search engines. He's probably just getting it from, like, directories and shit. Like, what term is he even ranking for? The answer is I've never seen anything that would indicate that one page ranking particularly well or getting a lot of links will somehow throw off your other pages. If you're worried about it, you could also do things like cluster your site. Like, Google generally handles, like, paths and subfolders, subdomains, clusters, and so on. Interlinking and so on pretty well. I see no reason why you would worry about this. What could try kill Google search? I think what he's asking is, well, what could be after search engines? Is there a reason why search engines could die? Insert fan theories here about real life. The most plausible, like, kind of boring answer would be like market share gets spread over more competitors, more search engines become more viable, and you might even hit a point where, like, it's trivial to make a search engine. So, like, it's trivial to make, like, a calculator, but in the 80s it wasn't. So maybe, like, 10 years from now, you just go to, like, Python and say, like, import search engine, and, like, everyone just has their own custom search engine. Like, maybe just an increasing set of people in the market and an increasing ease of doing that kind of searching, like, better technology for people to just be able to do that, and then larger market share. That's my best guess for what would, like, kill Google search or, like, impact Google search the most substantially. That's probably the most realistic answer. And then, like, I guess from there, if it's trivial to make a search engine, then you could have things like, I don't know, like, decentralized search shit. Like, that's kind of stupid, but, like, either, like, people had their own implementations. I don't know. Like, if it were easier for people to make their own search engines, maybe you'd see some shit like that just being spread out further. Probably something like that. That's probably my best bet. Or best guess is yeah, that's probably even it. I don't know. The answer is something like that, probably. As to, I don't know what would happen, like, after search engines. Like, when would people not need to search for things? I don't know. It's kind of hard to answer that in, like, a completely new technology perspective. Magic, probably. How to reach people who are in charge of buying furniture for bars, clubs, and lounges. Honestly, probably it's just going to be the person who owns the place. Like, I don't know if there's a specific person, but how to find them. Probably just find a list of local businesses and then just start calling them, or just send them, like, samples or, like, something. Probably I would start with just a list of local businesses, the same way you would look for any kind of local business. Well, is he doing a national thing? I guess you could do that. Or do SEO for you, specifically doing beer pong shit. Probably do SEO related to stuff in that niche. And then maybe even if you wanted to do, you could do like a social media thing. Like you could try to do like some kind of like viral video or something with like Roombas on a beer pong table or some stupid shit like that. I don't know, maybe something like that. If you're just trying to sell stock, like you might just even, I don't know, if he's looking for like big clients, you might just find listings or directories and like send them samples or something. Well, I guess how do you send a sample of a beer pong table? Either that or just do SEO/social media marketing for beer pong shit, which is not really a specific answer besides market the product you're selling, which is kind of the answer. It's like, just do marketing. There's not really a specific answer to that particular question. Maybe get I guess you could get beer bottle openers with like your brand name on it. That's kind of stupid though. How do I get guest posts? Go watch the video we had. These are probably terrible. Don't get these like terrible like if a site is called like Guest Post Land, like don't post a guest post there. It's just trash. But watch our guest post video. Probably don't use these. What's the best link building agency in Delhi, India? This is a spam question. The answer is none of them. They all cost the same thing except for the ones that are just ripping you off with terrible trash. They're all bad. If you don't know how to quantify how good an SEO agency is, then you shouldn't be hiring one, honestly. How much time do I need to make a design for a landing page? So it really depends. You can get a halfway, it depends on how hard you want to try. You can get a halfway decent landing page in like easily like 1 or 2 hours. I threw, let's see. Like I threw this together in like a day, this whole site, but the landing page only took, I don't know, like each page was maybe like an hour. And this is just WordPress with Elementor or whatever it's called. And it's like a standard looking landing page. You might have a fancier style sheet for like a larger site. It's like a 4-page site. But honestly, it shouldn't really take you that long. Like, unless you're doing something really heavily custom, like you need some really custom feature, then unless you're coding something from scratch. But if you're using WordPress, like honestly, you're probably just going to install like some theme that looks good and then install some plugin that looks good and then duct tape things together, which shouldn't take you more than a few hours. For like a standard affiliate site, it shouldn't take you more than like an hour or two. There's no link here, so I don't know what he's referring to. If he had an example, maybe. The answer is probably your first one might take you like a whole day to get like one, or maybe even like a few days if it's your very first site and you're completely new to everything. But like once you know a little bit about web dev, like honestly, it should only take you like an hour or two. How to write content for websites. Watch our on-page SEO guide. That's the answer. This is just spam too. This is just a spam link. Photocopier dealers in Chennai. So what are the best backlinks for local? The answer is just the same as other sites. Like in terms of backlinks, like you might also look into like local business listings. Those are useful for local niches. You might try to get something specific to your region, but like honestly, backlinks are backlinks. Like just general backlinks are going to be good for a local business in terms of building authority. There's not really a specific magic thing. Maybe look for local directories. There is like one local business, but there is one orthodontist in Portland who has like, I swear to God, he has like 7 backlinks, and they're all just from like local directories, but he still ranks #1 for like all the major orthodontist terms in this city because, well, there's not very many orthodontists in the city, so he doesn't really need that many links. So that's kind of true. You don't need as many links, but you like just get like, which is also why you should then just go get good links the same as you would for anything else. If you can rank without links, then you can rank better with links. Go get links. Next we have another question. Backlinks. Yes or no? And why? Well, as we've established previously, in 2013, backlinks immediately stopped mattering. So I guess the answer is no. What is content marketing in SEO? Content marketing is called sitting around and not doing SEO. Content marketing is not SEO. Content is not the part. Content marketing is just making good content. Like the promotion isn't content. The content is content, and then the promotion is SEO or fucking social media marketing, which can also be SEO indirectly, and also directly. Content marketing is not really a thing in terms of SEO. It's just content. Content is not SEO. It's not the same thing. Working on a massive site, how to deal with a massive amount of old content. A bunch of posts with mediocre interlinking, 200 and 400 words. Most have no backlinks, some do. Well, the first thing I would do if I were in this scenario is I might analyze this differently from him. Like, it's possible some are actually getting traffic and he's wrong, or like some are on page 2 and they could be boosted. So it kind of depends on to what extent he's even accurate about what he's saying. What I'd probably do is just keep them and then, like, silo them or something. Yeah, I would just probably silo them, and if you didn't care about those silos, then just don't build more links to them. Like, if it's just old crap, I'd probably just silo it and then just, like, fuck around with the internal links so they're kind of isolated and you don't have to think about them. Or usually I don't delete posts because there's probably still links somewhere. You could delete all the ones that don't have links if you wanted to. Like, it would really depend on the scenario. Like, in general, I wouldn't recommend deleting shit unless you have like you need to get rid of it. If it's not important, I would just recommend kind of like siloing it, I guess, which is what I already said. Probably silo it and then just like put it in like a little silo. Probably. You could also do that, I guess it's probably fine. If they're really getting, like, no traffic at all, you could do that. It would depend on his scenario and how shitty this random content is. Is WordPress or Wix a better option? So my understanding, I've never actually used Wix. My understanding is Wix is, like they probably are out of the box fine for, like, SEO to have your brand name ranked, probably, if you have a few links. Like, they probably have fine on-page out of the box by just filling out their fields. But then it's kind of like, well, you still have to go do keyword research and then, like, write the articles. I mean, they're both going to be fine out of the box for, like... The thing is, they're fine, like, technically. You know, they'll be like, oh, there's a title tag you can set. You can set an H1 in the thing. You can customize your URL. Like, okay. But it's like, that's not an achievement for a content management system unless it's 2004. So, like, honestly, they both give you the tools to be optimized on page fine. But you still have to know how to optimize your site on page, and like then you'd also want to know how to do keyword research. So like both or neither, they're both fine. But you're really gonna also need to know, like they're not gonna do SEO for you out of the box, like realistically. WordPress is probably more customizable if that's something you care about, but it's not even necessarily a requirement for SEO. How often should you submit your sitemap to Google, and what are the consequences of doing it too often? Never, and there are no consequences. I have said this several times. I'm pretty sure Google doesn't even look at this. Like, you submit the sitemap, and then they probably just say, thanks, we got it. And then when they go to crawl your site, they just fetch a new sitemap. Like, I highly doubt it makes them crawl your site any sooner. I think it's just something they put in there so it feels like you're doing something. There's probably no impact for doing it too often, in that there's no penalty or there's no impact for you doing it ever. What is the best free SEO tool for backlink research? The answer is I did a video on backlink research. I was going to say keyword research. So there is actually a video on a keyword research thing. But backlink research, probably go to small SEO tools, and they have a backlink checker, and it's adequate. That's probably fine. Oh, wait, no, there's also a keyword backlink shitter. There's also backlinkshitter.com, which is kind of the same thing. I don't know, they're both fine. Those are both fine options. There's probably other ones, but those are two that I know of that are adequate. They'll show you some backlinks. I don't know, do either of those. I'll probably link them in the comments. That's all the questions in this thread. All right, those are 33 SEO questions. Do you have any other SEO questions? Post them in the comments, or drop a link to whatever you want to have looked at, or whatever. Alright, that's the end of this video. We'll have some more videos. If you have any other SEO questions, post them in the comments, and I might even answer them. This is kind of like an SEO master thread, or something along that lines. Alright, in conclusion, get the fuck out.